Hey, welcome back. Welcome back. It's your boy Nova Zeta ENT, part two of reacting to Channel 5's interview with the all-white commune in Arkansas. When we left off, obviously it's not too long since I posted the first one, but we had just really we hadn't even gotten to the meat, man. I've just been yapping, right? There's a commune in Arkansas where white people, Europeans, they want to start an all-European commune, uh, which again, is like I said in my first video, I don't really have a problem with, right? If you want to use your own money to buy off a section, to make it so, if you want to be a NIMBY in your own section, that's okay. Obviously, I told you, like, I don't like if you unless you go to the government and say, hey, we want to legislate it so nobody can be in a certain distance away from us, whatever, keep them in their own neighborhoods. When you try to use the law in order to strong arm people, I got a problem with that. But if everybody in your area is in agreement, like, here's, any black person beside the Hodge twins, Candace Owens, um, Stevie Knight, anybody like that, maybe, right? You know what I'm saying? I'm name dropping, but maybe they might be, because like what the Hodge twins said, like maybe they were joking and because it's just not funny, but maybe they were joking when they said like, "Ooh, can we get in? We're not all the way black." And then the guy was like, "Oh no, it's okay if you're over there. You guys are doing great things for the Republican Party," which should kind of be what these people realize, like their vote only matter. They only matter as far as they can increase the vote number. It's sad. That's sad, right? And that's why I think like that's another conversation, another video. But the left is kind of failing black people in this respect that people feel like they would rather be disrespected by that side and maintain those values than understand that those values can be brought over to this side, right? It's okay to be the most right-leaning Democrat. You're only as good as your most conservative or liberal member. As much as that people hate to say that, right? If you get 10 black people in the room, I'll give you a little scenario before we get into this, right? Think about this for a second. If you get 10 black people in the room and you say like, "Hey, do y'all like when white people say racist stuff to you?" All 10 will go, "Yeah, no, I hate that. Why would anybody like racist stuff said to them?" Then you go like, "Yeah," and then just two of them is gonna sound crazy when I say this, right? But two of them could say, "Yeah," and then when they hate me just because I'm black and gay, I hate that too. That's right, right. We all hate that, right? When they hate black and gay people, two of them are gonna be like, "Yeah, yeah, 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 yeah. That's crazy." That the other eight are gonna shut up because they're gonna be like, we don't like when white people don't like us, but we do not fuck with that gay shit, right? Like, being black is first, right? All the other stuff is separate. You know, I think that's one of the most effective things that the right has done to the left. I'm gonna do a video about this clavicular stuff, but that's something I've noticed that the right is experiencing now. One of the best things that they did is make so it's the right and everyone else, right? A coalition, the left is a coalition of things that do not work together, right? And they're all trying to stay in lockstep when they have very little in common. And the right has a lot in common, right? And they're just now experiencing the turmoil that the left is for a long time. But like I was saying, we're on part two of the white commune in Arkansas, which I have no problem with. Um, I think the reason is hilarious, and I think they're LARPers, but I don't have a problem with what they got going on. So let's go ahead and get back into the action.
Pura la raza latina. And they're very pro this kind of unified Latino thing.
Hey guys, what's up? I'm at the Waffle House.
You notice what he said? Man, we already starting off. You saw he said, like, one of the biggest things you can tell when somebody doesn't take something seriously, is that when, like, he's trying to do the thing. He's trying to make a what that clip was. If you didn't watch the end of my video, which if you didn't, man, come on, man, just throw it in the background. Help me out. Help me get my paper up, right? But he said that white Europeans don't feel close to their ties because if they've been here too long, they're just white Americans now, which is true, right? Like, welcome to being black people, right? Like, welcome to being an African American. I hate that term, but thank you for welcome to being a black American, right? We're so far removed from our old lineage that we're just black Americans, right? We have our own thing. Yes, the world exports our culture for their own gain, but we are who we are. We don't have to be anybody else. But it is good to know where your ancestry comes from. So I agree with him in that respect. But he's mad that Latinos who usually aren't here as long, or they haven't been here as long, maybe first, second generations, of course this ties to that old life, right? And they have a commonality in, you're two generations removed from colonization, Um, and so I get where he's saying he doesn't feel like he belongs anywhere other than with other white Americans. Nothing wrong with that, man. It's when you try to use the law to try to exert pressure over people. That's what redlining and all those things are important about. It's okay if you want to live, anybody, any black person, what I was saying originally, any black person who wants to live in a whites only town, you can have them, man. Like, I'm sure in a generation, you'll have them in the house and some in the field like you guys want. They'll want to role play every single part of what y'all had going on. You can have them. We'll sign on for it. We'll pay for them if that's what you want. We'll pay for the move if that's what you would like.
Not too far away from the RTTL settlement. Very different vibe, but I'm happy to be here. Anyways, we were just talking about Mexico and Spanish stuff, so I figured now's a good time to tell you that Channel 5 actually has a second Spanish language channel with all original content from across Latino America. So if you guys want to check out a couple of videos, such as Lucha Extrema, or Nahuatl Language Survival, or Inside Tepito, Mexico City's largest counterfeit market, or Mexican Independence Day, or so many more things, you can check all these videos out on Canal 5. Just type in Canal 5 Latino America. You should see like a circle. It looks kind of like Channel 5, but instead of being blue and red for America, it's green and red for Mexico. So if you want to give us a sub, a like, or whatever, maybe comment. Gracias, Andres. Este video es muy chistoso. I really appreciate it. Once again, that's Canal 5. I'm trying to expand our coverage across the world, country by country, society by society. So maybe there'll be Channel 5 Africa or Channel 5 Russia in the future. But for now, we've got Canal 5 Latino America. So if you want to check it out, like I said, the link is in the description.
Hey, if you ever get your weight up, man, if you want to send me to Nigeria for a little bit, let a little bit time happen after what just happened. But, if you want to send me to Nigeria, I would love to get in touch with the roots. I love to go back and, I'll say go back, like I've been there, right? I love to go and see what everybody going on in Lagos,
Description box and the pinned comment of this video. All right, guys, back to.
I know there's more than Lagos, Abuja, Kano State, rivers, all that stuff. I only know what I know. I'm an American, so sue me.
Eric and RTTL. After grappling with the lack of ancestral connection during his formative years in LA County, Eric decided to attend a performing arts school in upstate New York. During his schooling, he became infatuated with the works of classical European composers, who gave him a sense of tradition that he finally felt connected to.
I went to school at Eastman for French horn performance, so I'm a big fan of, Bruckner and Brahms and Strauss and Mozart and Beethoven, all that stuff.
After college, Eric's admiration for the Mozarts of the world morphed into a total obsession with Greek philosophy and ancient European history.
Those old European cultures.
Today, Europe stuff is still his primary fixation and passion.
I personally have a lot of respect for the Dutch. The Mycenaean Greeks were this big force at the end of the Bronze Age. The religious traditions of pagan Europe had valuable things to teach us. All European people are descended from 3 ancestral groups: the Western hunter-gatherers, the steppe herders, and then from the Neolithic farmers who came from Anatolia around 9000 BC, initially into Greece, and then spreading everywhere else. As a Neoplatonist, I kind of agree with Iamblichus. I like Atlantis research. That's another hobby.
You think Atlantis was a real place?
100%. And they were also in Western Europe at various times.
But do you have French pride?
I'm not French.
These interests ultimately led Eric into a career in philosophical.
One, how does he know, right? Like, he says he doesn't have any touch with his roots, but I'm sure he did a genealogy test to try to figure out where he's from. It could be. Someone could have migrated from France to England, and their nationality is, or Britain, or whatever, Ossetian, whatever you've got going on, right? But you could just migrate it there, and then you could be descended from that guy. You don't necessarily know unless you're able to go back. You're able to track that back, which you might have, right? I think what's that one coat? There's that one coat that's literally tracked their stuff from like 1 BC, so they know like some really meticulous dude passed it down to a lot of meticulous people, and they've still got it going, right? But again, I understand where and I get you guys are gonna say I'm shilling for these people, but hey, man, the urge to have a sword run through you and die in a battle in a snow-covered field, after with a family far, home, and they get to hear about your legend as 4 of your kids died on a farm this winter, man, I get it. I can understand. I feel it.
Content creation, beginning with his first videos over 13 years ago.
The term philosophy was first coined by Pythagoras. What we might call pleasure and pain, I think more neutrally and generally could be termed positive and negative subjective value.
We can talk about that level of egotism as being a kind in its own right.
Gradually, from 2016 on, these videos became more politicized, focusing a bit less on Plato and metaphysics and more on a shadowy global elite who uses mind control on the unawoken masses.
We can sacrifice, racial purity at a national level if we get cultural and racial integrity at the local level.
It's this kind of content that caught the eye of most current RTTL settlers.
I believe I came across Eric's X account. He has like kind of a philosophy channel on YouTube and X. So I found him through philosophical content.
I teach courses on Plato and Aristotle online.
Through that, heard about Return to the Land and became interested.
RTTL was initially marketed as a positive, community-based regression to a pre-industrial society.
The way a state should be run is in the interest of the people, not a set of corporations, not just the ruling class, not just one man.
And if you take the race stuff out of all of this, I mean, living this way does provide a pretty gratifying existence to people who've grown up in either Gen Z or millennial American society, where almost...
That's what I've been saying. This whole thing is just a third place. Being able to put your phone down does sound pretty good. Like, again, I'm not excusing, like, I don't even really, at this point, like I said, I don't care, man. Like, it's, if they only want to live around white people, that's okay, right? Now, again, if they decide sundowning is important, if they decide, put them up in a tree, all that stuff, man, then we got a problem. Then we got to excavate it by force, whatever means necessary, right? But man, let them go do their thing, man. Let them go take themselves out of the gene pool, off the map. It is what it is. But they just long to belong, man. Like that's it. That's all I'm hearing is that he has picked this. I hope y'all get what I'm saying. Like back in like the 1940s, he would have just had a lot of trains. Like now we've got access to technology, and you can kind of connect with other train enthusiasts and build a railway station, if you get what I mean, right? Like he would be a collector of trains back in the day, right? And now he just gets to live out his train collection in this way.
Everyone is chronically online and frantically scavenging to pay rent in a limited job market.
What are some things that you've built here that you're very proud of?
I don't know, I probably built like 30% of that starter home, maybe like 40% of the little cabin over there. Oh yeah, the other cabin over there, I might have built like 40% of that, but
Do you feel like labor gives you the most personal gratification as far as your role here?
As far as my role here, yes. It's also like a good thing to like keep each other responsible. Like it's very easy, as a teenager, like, oh yeah, I'm gonna get off of school and I'm gonna go home and like play video games and, do whatever else you do as a teenage boy in your bedroom for like 4 hours. And then like, before you know it, the day's gone,
Yeah.
Whereas here, if me and Jonathan, we're like being unproductive or whatever, we can kind of kick each other in the ass and be like, hey, like, what's going on?
What's your favorite thing to do around here?
I like to cook. I've cooked for the guys that work here. I don't really have hobbies or anything.
She cooks a killer steak.
I like...
So Young Don in his video, he gave a really scathing, like I can't figure out why. Like he was he gave a really scathing opinion of this woman just wanting to. I don't like that she says she doesn't have hobbies. I can tell you, like, it's good to have hobbies, even if like cooking is your hobby. That's your purpose, right? Your hobbies can be your purpose, right? But the fact that she's like, yeah, everything was his idea. I came here, I cook, I don't have anything going for myself. I don't like that, but it kind of tells you the mind frame of a lot of these people. She didn't have anything going on in her life. She didn't feel a sense of purpose. This is giving her purpose. Like a LARPing as an old 1940s housewife is, I say 40s, but they couldn't have like bank accounts like the 70s. So let's say 60s. Let's compromise. Cosplaying a 1960s housewife gives her purpose.
being appreciated for my cooking.
Almost everyone here at the land, I think, worked on this.
You proud of it?
Well, it was our first build, so most guys don't have any experience and we're just learning from YouTube.
So YouTube taught you to build a house?
Yeah, essentially.
We bought it like raw, undeveloped land, so that's been exciting.
What's the thing out here that you're most proud of in this homestead project so far?
Probably the garden. I feel like David put a lot of work into just getting this ready for us to be here.
So I believe that polities should be small in scale to the point where you could conceivably know everyone in the community. I think there should be a diverse set of communities for people to choose from, like the Greek city-states. You know, if you didn't like how Corinth was governed, well, you could move to Athens.
Building from the intellectual framework that Eric has created, race seems to almost arise as an unnecessary flashpoint for a group of people in a virtually all-white area who are primarily concerned with their homesteading project. Yet still, it's brought up constantly.
I hate to be that guy, but like I've had a lot of black friends.
Okay, top 5 black people.
Tommy Sotomayor, Louis Farrakhan, let me think, the Hodge twins, and Jesse Lee Peterson.
Black Lives Matter is a
Crazy.
far-left, liberal, radical, agitative organization founded by a bunch of black lesbians and homosexuals and
Mr. Peterson,
radical
I
social
suggest
justice
you give...
warriors.
Okay, like one of my best friends ever used to be Puerto Rican. He was a lot of fun, but it's sort of like, you know, you have these big...
What is he now? Like he said, he used to be Puerto Rican. What is he now? Like, did he undergo some trans? Like, that why he's here? Like, oh, I got a transracial friend who used to be Puerto Rican and now he's something different. I don't like that. Like, I know that's not. I know I'm missing this point, but that's a weird way to word that sentence.
Big ethnic blocks that are like boulders, right? And you can build a bridge across and like meet in the middle and be friends with someone from another ethnic group, of course, right? But it's very unstable. It doesn't last.
What happened with your Puerto Rican friend?
Oh, nothing. He just moved away. He moved back to Puerto Rico.
We sad?
Oh, I was a little bit sad, yeah.
Damn, that sucks, man.
Hey guys, what's up?
I know he didn't say that. I know he didn't. My boy picked up and moved to an all-white town because his Puerto Rican friend moved away. That's crazy. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, hey man, whatever floats your boat and get you where you need to be. But imagine, imagine you get broken up with, and like, actually, you know what? It probably happens. Like, I'm sure there's a lot of military enrollment that happens when men get broken up with. Like, you're 18 years old, your girlfriend, high school girlfriend breaks up with you, and you feel listless. You just join the army. You just go get you a Hellcat. Like, you know, I guess that could happen. Probably does.
Communities like the one here in the Ozarks are real-life manifestations of online echo chambers. When people start relying on Facebook groups, message boards, and fringe YouTube channels for information, the digital feedback loop eventually spills into the real world. Beliefs get reinforced, outsiders get villainized, and an entire town can start to mirror the same closed-circuit worldview you normally only see online. So naturally, before we put boots on the ground and go inside, we get informed, using what, you might ask? Ground news. Ground news is a dope-ass news aggregate, among many other things, that shows you stories from across the political spectrum and ranks them in terms of bias, from left to center to right, so you can see how different sides of the mainstream press are covering a story as it unfolds. For example, when it comes to this story, the whites-only community, mainstream outlets, both left and center, have all extensively reported on it. But as you can see here using Ground News, on the right, there's barely a ripple. No headlines, no segments, no commentary. Thank you. And when an issue this...
I wonder why that is. Like, do they not find it important? Like, I feel like this would be something like right up their alley. Or is it enlightening us to know that they don't care about this as much as we think they would, and this is mostly an insular problem.
large goes almost entirely uncovered by an entire side of the media landscape, you know something's up. Something else that doesn't get enough attention is how many news stories aren't actually newsworthy at all. That's why Ground News actually quantifies the number of verified sources covering a story, so you can figure out if it's a real story or just phony baloney echo chamber nonsense. Ground News also tracks ownership of publications, so you can figure out what corporate investor might be paying for said story, if you catch my drift. For all these reasons, we here at Channel 5 trust Ground News to help us cut straight through the noise. And right now, guess what? If you scan the QR code on screen or go to the link in the description, you can get 40% off the Vantage plan, bringing the cost down to $5 a month. So get it for yourself or gift it to a loved one so they too don't miss out on this dope-ass news aggregate. I really believe in what these guys are doing, and I encourage you to check it out. Ground News. All right, back to the Ozarks.
My name is Jonathan Malorn. This is Josephine Moore, and we live on the land here at RTTL.
Have you guys had any kids yet?
No, we're not married.
yet.
Oh, you guys are dating?
Yes.
Courting.
What's courting?
Courting is just like dating with more steps. Essentially, we have to be like verified by our supervisors and guardians, people we look up to and respect, and they both monitor our relationship and
This is where the LARP comes in. She said they moved here from wherever they were to do this, to court here. So they, hold on. So they moved all the way from where they were to Wisconsin. So they moved from Wisconsin to Arkansas. They're not dating. They're trying to get the input of people who should say if they should date or not. And they moved across the country to do it. This is LARP. It's just cope and it's LARP, and they just want to feel like they belong. I would like to see what their parents have going on, because their parents cannot be strong in their lives if they had to move to another state to get parental guidance.
Help to advise whether or not we are good for each other. If they decide we are good for each other, then they walk us along and help us to pursue the relationship that would, end in the best outcome, which would be getting married and having as many children as possible.
For Jonathan, who grew up in a Mennonite colony until he was 6, exiting standard society and courting his future wife in isolation is the only viable option for long-term success in today's dating culture.
What is right with the dating culture? Every woman on the internet is more or less advertising herself as sexually accessible. And so if that's what you want to do as a bloke and throw your soul away for a quick goon, yeah, it's great. Dating culture for that. The problem with that is, and we see this demographically and statistically, the birth rate is going down exactly because of the over-accessibility of sex. The marketplace value of sex and monogamy as a whole is basically at an abysmally low level, probably the lowest it's ever been in human history that I've ever studied. And that does not benefit the future generation of our offspring. It does not actually benefit a happy life. People above the age of 40 who are married long-term have significantly happier lives, both male and female.
I notice you have a ton of kids.
Yeah.
How many you got?
Number 5 on the way.
Now, I don't disagree with what he's saying, like having something to live for. Having someone and something to live for, it can make your life complete, right? Like anybody who says like there's a difference between being alone and lonely. If you are lonely, you can't be happy, right? Like, it's just there's always gonna be something missing. There are people who are comfortable being alone and they're where they need to be. And I think we do a bad job of, and this is neither here nor there from what he's talking about. He knows his purpose, apparently. He knows that he wants this out of life, so he's going about what he needs to do to get there, right? But we can't demonize people who are comfortable being alone. Like those cat moms and those rich aunties and the uncles, the bachelor uncles, they know what they want in life. They know where they want to be, if they feel complete, that's good. Like the problem with a lot of these surveys is that you kind of gotta like get deep into them. You got to figure out who funded the survey, what did they actually ask, and how big the sample size was. There's so many of these surveys that their sample sizes are too small, or obviously if you're like, oh, well, what do you think about marriage, and you ask 18-year-olds on a college campus, the answer you're going to get is way different than you ask 18-year-olds who are in the church all the time. So I mean, I get what he's saying. Like, he thinks that he'll be happier if these things happen, and he's taking the steps to do what he needs. I don't think he had to go as far as joining an all-white commune, but this is this is his influence. It's like, black kids mostly look up to rappers and athletes because that's who you see on TV. It is why representation is important. I think it's crazy when we say representation doesn't matter. It absolutely does, right? There are people out there who couldn't have seen themselves do something until they see someone who looks like them or thinks like them do something. And you're actually seeing this right now. It's crazy that they said like DEI isn't important. And I don't want to I don't mince words with the term, because I think both sides use the term terribly. It's not what it was used for. It's not what it's executable. Someone's trying to execute, but they're living proof that representation does matter. That they just see themselves as the default. So to them, representation looks like anything outside of what they are, not who they are and who they want to be.
Okay, cool. What's the plan for education for the kid?
I'm homeschooling. It's going pretty well. I know everything that they need to learn. It's going to be nice being in the community when they get a little older, and I'm going to need help filling in certain subjects I'm not comfortable with. That's another reason I'm glad to have the community, because I don't necessarily want to sift through every piece of history to know, what's acceptable to teach the kids or not. I trust the guys here.
I'm not overwhelmed by the evidence for the exact official narrative, like it was precisely 6 million. There's Black Wall Street. Back in the era of segregation, there are examples of prosperous black communities.
Black Wall Street, I'm pretty sure, got burned down in a race riot.
Yeah, I mean, if you look into the details there, that's another one of these narratives. Slavery was bad, but also everyone else practiced slavery too. North America was very sparsely populated when we got here.
It's important to note that interwoven into these tropes about community building and heritage celebration is a much more intense core, and one that embraces controversial and outdated race signs.
Black college-educated people still tend to be more violent and criminal than white high school dropouts.
Really?
Yeah, the average IQ in some parts of sub-Saharan Africa is under 75, which is considered mentally disabled. East Asians have measurably a higher average IQ than Europeans, and they're less criminal and they're more prosperous.
So you're saying Asians are smarter than us?
Yes, on average.
I mean, obviously, I'm not a phrenologist, so none of that is important to me, right? Like, obviously, you could. There's always going to be a grain of salt, right? Depends on how you take those tests. If you try to teach a fish how to climb a tree, the fish is always going to look stupid. If you try to teach, a monkey how to write Shakespeare, you always think the monkey is stupid. I'm sure there's some truth to what they're trying to say here, but sub-Saharan Africa has much bigger problems than taking a literacy test. Or, I mean, well, they're probably illiterate in the first place. I'm not well versed on what they got going on in a lot of these countries. Huge region, different countries, right? Um, if that's what he wants to say, that's fine. I need to see how he interprets the data he's looking at and how he can possibly not attach socioeconomic standards to that. Like he just thinks that all things equal, things will happen. Like you're saying, college education people are typically more violent. I'd like to see the studies that he has. I'll go look at them at some point. I'm sure Medium Man has it on there. Shout out Medium Man. He's always good with statistics. That's his job. In the military, he looks at stats all day. So I'm sure he'll put out something eventually if he hasn't already about that. I have to go check his channel out. So, let's continue.
Yeah. Like every Japanese person I've met or like Korean seems really smart, but I've met some Chinese people where it's like, really? I feel like they're fudging the numbers on that one, to be honest.
As far as most experts are concerned,
I hate to stop it again. What does that mean? How many Koreans does he know? How many Japanese people has he met? How many Chinese people has he met? What does that even mean? Like, what is he? What is his goal? What is this dude has said some crazy? He said by far the craziest stuff. Like they've said some interesting things, and they have some interesting reasons for why they're doing this one. But this dude has absolutely said stuff that I think that I need to see 30 seconds before he said that and 30 seconds after, because there's no context to what he's talking about.
all of these IQ numbers are fudged. Here's a bit more about that from somebody who knows his shit, because I feel like it's worth it.
These tests were made for the purpose of figuring out who's going to do well in school. It doesn't predict terribly well to many kinds of real-world successes. There's so much it doesn't tell you. That it doesn't tell you about emotional intelligence, creative intelligence, common sense, wisdom. There's so much more to a person than just their IQ. I would say the major problem has been what's sometimes called scientific racism, but it's not really scientific. It's using the guise of science to advance racist views, because you sometimes get racial differences in different kinds of test scores, including IQ, that don't take into account where those differences may come from. It was convenient for some people to say, well, look, we can divide people by nationality or socially defined race or ethnic group or religion into different IQ groups, and they probably believed themselves that it told you something, but it didn't tell you what they thought it told you. People with high IQs are often better at convincing themselves of whatever they want. So in other words, they use their IQ for self-justification. They're better at justifying whatever they want to believe. So if they have an ideology, they may have a very weird ideology, but they'll find ways to defend it even if it's not factually accurate. I don't know the details of the people you're studying in Arkansas, but I think that making judgments about people solely on the basis of high IQ is a serious mistake.
Michael Jordan is not a genius.
I don't know Michael Jordan. I've never assessed him. I don't know that much about him. But you see, he's a good example.
What would that mean? Again, what would that mean, right? Like, stupid people can be rich and successful. But is he measuring only success can only be measured in how smart you are? It's like if you're a pauper, like you're the poorest person he knows, but you're incredibly intelligent, and he meets an idiot with a lot of money, that I need to specifically talk to that kid, because what does he mean Michael Jackson's not a genius? He's a billionaire. If you think that I can't figure out what the goal of what he's saying ever is. It's like Theo Von just makes up new sentences that no human has ever heard. This dude he has a chain of thoughts that have no connective tissue, and only to him. Like he might be thinking, like he's thinking, he says this part of the sentence, and then he continues thinking, because there's no way that sentence connects to anything useful.
Example of someone with adaptive intelligence. And in terms of adaptive intelligence, I mean, like, wow, he's done a great job.
Anyways, back to Eric and the fed up whites of the Arkansas wilderness.
What do you think was modern white America's Treaty of Versailles moment?
I guess like the Civil Rights Act. You know, there's a basis for equal rights under the law, and that was kind of the nominal intention of the civil rights movement, but it went way beyond that and has ended up restricting people's freedom.
One counter argument that I would make to that is that, you know, in the 1940s and 50s, World War II ends, all the returning veterans come home. The GI Bill allows returning veterans to get low-cost mortgages on new homes. This is when Levittows were being built and suburbs were being constructed at a very rapid rate. Cul-de-sacs were sprouting up, and the American dream was hatched. You know, white picket fence, nuclear family. Now, the Homeowners Loan Corporation, which basically decided who could live where, had racially restrictive covenants that said only white people can live in this area. Minorities can't live. They can only live in certain redlined zones.
Civil Rights Act comes in '64 after redlining had already began, after deindustrialization made the urban cores of places like Philadelphia, Chicago, and Detroit barren, and there was a mass transfer of wealth into surrounding suburbia. So what do you think about the notion that by the time the Civil Rights Act was passed, they already had the short end of the stick?
I would say that they were not at an advantage, obviously. The expectation that the Black community should have reached parity in a generation is crazy. Obviously, that would be impossible. It'd require massive top-down social engineering and redistribution of resources. Now, we have done that over the 20th century, but I think we overcorrected.
Well,
what does he mean done that, right? Like, maybe I need to go to his page and see if he's talks about what he means by have, like, what do you mean complete? Like, it's complete, like 300 years of slavery, redlining for a long time. White people move out west, get free parcels of land. A lot of that stuff still inhabited. Don't get me wrong, right? But they still have large acreage of land that they could do something with if it ever develops, right? You know, able to own a home, like able to own large parcels of land for a long time, like bought it for $1 or was given to it by the government, can sell it now for $1 million. Seen it happen, right? Can sell it now for $1 million. You're ahead of the game. Your kids are ahead of the game. Everybody's ahead of the game, and it's equal now because there was some social engineering that made it so now you can't get free land that you can sell 20 years later for $1 million. I'd be interested to see what he means because you always got to take something with a grain of salt. There's going to be people, hey, the whole reparations problem. There's other methods that I personally use. Like one of them would be like in redlined areas, you could do zero cost loans. And I'll say, oh, what about I didn't get a bit. That's not the point. The point is that yeah, that sucks. It sucks because you're now the one who, if this is if you're mad that like you wouldn't be able to get a low cost, zero cost loan in this day and age when everything's so expensive. That's kind of how it works. That's the point. In the past, my ancestors had that short end of the stick. This time you get the short end of the stick. That kind of sucks. In 200 years, we can revise it, and then my kids will get a short end of the stick. It'll be cyclical, right? But that's just one thing you can do that isn't monetary value. If you give niggas $100,000 right now, a lot of them would just buy Jordans. I don't mean that in a way like only niggas will only buy Jordans, right? Like creating more money, printing more money doesn't solve an issue. Giving tangible assets that can accrue in value or lessen the burden down the line. Now that's different, but I'd be interested to say what he means by that. Like, how could you even out hundreds of years of oppression in 20, 30 years, in 40 years? How could you even overcorrect for that much oppression in that small amount of time? I'm not even talking about like everywhere has slavery. Yeah, for sure. And some places still have slavery or basically something close to it. We're not talking about those. We're not doing a whataboutism. What about over there where they, no. We're talking about here right now. Here's what used to happen. Here's what should happen. Here's what is going to happen. Then we talk about that. But I'd be interested to, maybe he covers it in a little bit.
For example, like small business loans, right? Like there was something that they sort of blew the water off of like 6 months ago or something like that. And it's basically a fact that if you're not a white male, like you're getting like, I forget the exact numbers, so don't hold me to it, but like $90,000 more to start a small business just because you're a minority. You know, as a white male, you're putting so
90,000. But between 10 to 90,000 more dollars. This kid gotta do something. He gotta give some sort of. You gotta be, if you're gonna be wrong, and you gotta be loud and confident. You can't speak so unsure of yourself when you're gonna be throwing such a weird range. Like how much is it between $1 and $1 million?
so much more back into the system and we're getting less and less out, it's basically parasitic.
In limited cases, maybe when it's historically verifiable that this person was a slave on this plantation, the wealth went to this person. You know, if it's all on the books, then I think that's fair. Actually, some cases of reparations of that kind have taken place. So I'm all for that. But there's a more general narrative that Black people are where they are in society today because of continual systemic oppression and white supremacy. And I don't think that's true at all.
Do you think there's any solution in America politically that could lead to a reduction in homicides in a place like Baltimore?
I think the options are remigration or death penalty.
It should be noted that RTTL's opposition to the Civil Rights Act is beyond an ideological one. And it's Martin Luther King Jr.'s ghost itself that could come back and f this place up. You see, the 1964 rulings included something called the Fair Housing Act, which was designed specifically to stop things like this from happening.
Isn't the Fair Housing Act technically supposed to restrict this kind of thing?
Well, no, because there are exceptions for private associations, and we're not selling real estate. When people buy a share in the company that owns the land here, they're not getting a deed to land. They're getting the right to homestead in our community.
All the initial LLC members, they paid the real estate company directly through the escrow agent.
Unlike a residential development, which is owned by a real estate...
This actually sounds really, really close to, hold on. I'm sure they've got some justification, but this sounds really close to socialism, right? Like, if you can't own the land that you're on, you're beholden to the owner of the company on if you get to keep your home or not. Like, that kind of sounds worse. Like, I mean, it doesn't sound bad, right? But it sounds worse, right? Like, hey, I want to live here. I want to lease a random spot. Oh no, you can't even pick. Right. If I'm to understand this, you're homesteading on the entire property, and then somebody will assign you a lot that you don't own, but you own a stake in the company. Maybe you sell your stake in the company for an amount, but what if you have the nicest home on the homestead? Will they assess the value in that? I'm interested to see how they're gonna do that, because that sounds like you're beholden to a feudal. Sounds like a serfdom. Like, it sounds like a fiefdom, and you're a serf on it, and some lord decides if your thing is worth this much anymore. And technically, they could just kick you out of it. Like, let's say you put in $100 and you spent $1,000,000 getting your parcel of land A1, and they're like, here's your $100 back, have a good day. Sounds like they could do that.
Company that must follow fair housing guidelines. RTTL is an LLC, a limited liability corporation, technically operating on a commercial property that was once owned and zoned by a logging company. So the settlers there are actually partners in the company who must apply with the board to be shareholders.
So you basically buy stock in a company, and then that in turn gives you usage rights for the land.
Right, shares in a private company.
And company boards can refuse the sale of shares to whoever they want. They're not explicitly legally required to give a reason why. You see what they did?
I mean, obviously, European heritage is very important to us, and you'd be surprised, really, by the number of people that, despite knowing that, they'll get through the interview. I've asked them about their ethnic background, and then they mention, oh yeah, but I have a Colombian wife. It's like that kind of thing. It's kind of contrary to our values as an association.
What if the Colombian wife is like 100% Spanish blooded?
Well, then it's probably fine.
How much did that first share cost?
About $6K.
It's pretty low.
I think that was for about like 3% share in the LLC.
How much do you think it cost you overall to get to this current point?
Oh, not too much compared to like a normal house.
And how close do you feel?
Okay, so do those shares dilute? Like, if each one owns 3%, right? So 6,000, 3%. Multiply that by. I mean, obviously, I'm not doing some super good math. Let's say like 10K, or 100 people. They can't have too many people. You get over 100 people, you have to buy somebody's share, or you have to dilute the shares. Are you getting less land for the more money, or is it driving the price of what that land up is if you get to a certain point? Because you could just do like New York, like build on top, but the people who bought in initially are getting most likely a bigger share of this company. Oh, that sounds like a domino. Like, it sounds like whoever in a year buys into this is gonna have a bad time.
Feel like you are to true self-sufficiency where you wouldn't technically have to leave.
Pretty far away from that. It's a good goal. This is our first year really here, so let's just like adding one piece at a time.
You could build a small cabin or have a building delivered for 5 to 10,000. So that plus the cost of the share itself, you could really reasonably get started with about 50,000.
Is your goal ever to pave these roads, or do you kind of like the rugged Appalachian feel?
No, I mean, one day if we could pave all these roads, it would be awesome.
Yeah.
But Orania in South Africa, they have 3,000 people. They bought an already existing town, you know, and then developed from there. And even they still have dirt roads. So it's going to be quite a while before we get these paved.
It should come as no surprise at all that they chose Arkansas for this project. It's a red state with low government oversight and a bunch of its own problems. Plus, the settlement is ungodly far from any population centers. It's hard to explain just how in the sticks this place truly is. The closest town is called Hardy, over 20 minutes away by car, and home to less than 1,000 people, only one of whom is black.
The locals didn't really have an issue with us. We've had good relations with most of our neighbors from the start.
There's a lot of people out here that I guess live and let live, you could say, which I appreciate that.
Still though, despite the lack of local pushback, there is some concern that with this national news media attention, legal trouble could be imminent.
Potentially, the biggest hurdle is the legal hurdle. There's going to be a lot of legal challenges, I think, to go through with this sort of thing.
We've not been sued or fined yet, but we do expect that. People have made complaints to government departments. We've had requests for information from government departments. So I think investigations are happening, and we'll have to wait months to really find out.
Even with potential legal complications on the horizon, most people there feel like it's worth it. On the settlement, there's a tinge of nihilism in the air. Most people feel like the country at large is doomed.
I don't think that there's like good political solutions for it now. I mean, that's why I'm here, right? I think actually like people being present and like putting in the labor, kind of like I'm doing, not to toot my own horn too much, but like every single day, and living in a lifestyle that's more conductive to community is probably going to be the way forward.
So do you see places like this, return to the land settlements, sprouting up across the country as a potential way to actually counter the demographic shift?
I don't think it will counter the demographic shift as a whole. I think it will provide safe places for my kids and grandkids to grow up valuing their culture, and that's what I'm going for. You know, that's my goal.
I think the solution looks something like what we're doing here. I think that's probably the best course of action.
I think the best we can hope for with politics is just to be left alone. I don't think realistically with the electoral maps we're looking at right now, there's ever going to be Uber-based gets elected. Nick Fuentes actually could probably do a pivot which I think he's already kind of doing, where he...
Who is Mexican, by the way? Obviously half Mexican, whatever he tries to say, but his dad is pretty dark, right? But it is kind of funny, like Sneeko, Candace Owens, the Hodge twins, Nick Fuentes, Jesse Lee Peterson. A lot of the people that these guys idolize and they look up to are non-white people, like, you know. But again, like I told you, I have no problem if they want to make this community, man. Like, get all the people that you want, put them in the middle, and live your dreams, man. Like, you know, like I said, I live for the day, because I'm gonna give you some context, right? Like the day that my kids' kids can say they live in a neighborhood, not the hood, is something I strive for. That's why I'm still here, right? I get this wild kooky value, and I'm only laughing because I can't empathize with it. Like, I can to a point, but everything, when they speak, it's like at the end they have to remember to throw the racism in, or like the segregation in. Like, they're going like, man, I just want a place where I can raise some kids, and it's not $4 billion, and there's not crippling debt, and AI is not ruining everything, and everybody's yiddies aren't out, and there's just not bulges everywhere, and oh yeah, no black people like this. Like, he said no black people, and that's the guy in charge, and I want to live here. So, you know, man, no black people, I guess. No Puerto Rican friends who move away.
Focuses less on the race question, more on Israel, and gets a broader coalition for electoral politics, so it's possible. But I don't think it's going to be like the next Führer or anything.
And right now there are several communities being organized. One of the things I've been up to lately is getting ready to go to all those sites where there are groups of people who want to do this and help them get organized, help them, you know, decide who their board of managers will be for their companies that'll own their land. So yeah.
I left the settlement confused.
See, think about what he just said, right? they are. It's actually he's engaging in what has made the country really inhospitable and really volatile, right? He what he just kind of let tipped you on is that he set up a board of people who say yes or no to the people who live in that thing. So he's double dipping. He gets to tell the people who he wants in or not in his village without having to take responsibility or for the legal recourse that happens. Right there, this is what makes politics so hard to exist within in this country. You can set up a shell company that does a thing that skirts the law, that absorbs the losses of the money you stole from somebody else, and then you can export that money out and you ruin the economy. I get it. Like, what did I hate to. Sometimes they say useful things, right? What did Emery Jr. say? He said, "I moved to Bucharest because I want to be able to pay my way into the corruption that people richer than me get to experience in the UK and in the States." And Orval and his people want to do the same thing. They want to use the law to their advantage. That's ruined the country in their eyes in order to safeguard what they think is the right man. I get it, man. I'm all for it. Like, I haven't heard anything that I find crazy. They haven't said they're gonna try to exert any force on anybody else. Live and let live, as they say. We're gonna go ahead and finish this out
And
on a
honestly,
note.
a bit sad. I mean, I know there's been problems and stuff, but it felt like shit was kind of all good not that long ago. The fact that people nowadays will go to such lengths to feel seen and heard is a symptom of a far greater social ill than meets the naked eye through this video. The American experiment is beginning to crack in new ways, and armies of the confused are shaping and writing the narrative. If I live a long and healthy life, I truly wonder how things will look when I'm 80 years old, and if I'll be equipped to explain to the youth of the future where and how we went wrong, or if we were ever right in the first place. I guess time will tell.
Channel 5 live worldwide, Hollywood and Vine.
Yeah, man, that's the video. It's part two of it, man. Like, I completely understand. Like, like again, like, I know this was positioned. Like, you saw what the Hodge twins said, O'Shea and them, all the hullabaloo about what they're going on. I'm gonna reiterate this: move to this town if you want to, man. Get out of the area you in. Like, let somebody else take your place and let somebody else try to make a way. If enough people move off grid and exist in their own little communes, hilariously enough, it's it, kind of the way to control it. It's a migration of itself, right? Like, they only want to be around a certain type of people. They want a better life for themselves. Go there, man. It's kind of funny that they're willing to. Okay, let me phrase this in a way that let me end on this. I think it's kind of funny that they're willing to possibly break laws to give their family a better life by moving to a place that they don't technically own the right to be in the way that the government recognizes. If anybody sees the irony in that, then hey, we're having a good time. Like I said, thanks for stopping by. Thanks for stopping by for part two. Hey, much more in the chamber. I'm gonna try to get more videos out. I know that I say that every time, but if you like, subscribe, share the video. I might get to the point where I don't have to work a billion hours to support my 4 million kids. One.